Welcome to another episode of What's the Topic. I'm your host, as always, Matt, better known as Jasper Reviews. With me is not Luke this week. It is Mike Burton of Star Wars Comics in Canon. That's it, isn't it? That's correct.
Yeah,
Comics, yeah. Star Wars Comics in Canon. Another show on Comics in Motion, which I really like because I love the Star Wars comics. So that's a really good show. You should listen to.
Well, yeah, definitely. I agree. People should listen to it as well. So.
Yeah. So, anyways, this week, what are we going to be talking about? A little bit of news. We've got just a little bit about Flashpoint, Shazam, Thor: Love and Thunder, and then, of course, the show that got released yesterday. It's not on Disney Plus. Aren't releasing these series on Fridays anymore. And we will have a Loki recap. So yeah. So first bit of news. Did you see the Shazam 2 teaser trailer thing?
No,
I mean, it wasn't really anything.
I saw I saw people on Twitter talking about it, and I saw his new suit, which is dividing people a little bit. Some people said that I think the lightning bolt thing is slightly too high. Other people said it looks a bit peculiar. I didn't see the teaser itself, but you know, I liked Shazam, the first one. I didn't love it, but I kind of liked it. I feel like the humor didn't really hit the mark for me, so I
feel like it's kind of like a nothing film.
Yeah,
not in a bad way, but it's not bad, it's not brilliant. It just kind of exists.
Yeah, I was surprised because when it got released, obviously DC are known, especially in their vague DC expanded universe movie stuff, it's quite dark things, and then Shazam is just completely not like that. I know Aquaman and certain other things are slightly less, but I was like with Shazam, I was like. The humour didn't hit for me, so for me it just felt like a poor man's Avengers movie, which is what Whedon's Justice League felt like as well. So I haven't been fully keeping up to date with the teaser. Did it actually show anything aside from his suit?
It showed nothing. It's just Zachary Levi talking, saying it's really dark in here because they're just teasing the suit, essentially. It's nothing.
Do you know of interest in that regard? I know obviously they're making Black Adam, and that's with Dwayne Johnson, and he's going to be a villain of Shazam's. Do we know? Like, I don't know anything about Shazam or Black Adam really. So is it like is Shazam 2 coming out and then Black Adam's going to almost be like a Shazam 3? Do you know? Or are they not connected and I'm crossing wires?
No. Well, they are connected. I can't remember which ones. I think Black Adam's coming first,
okay,
and then Shazam 2 is coming. I think he has said he's not going to be in this one. I mean, Black Adam's he's kind of an anti-hero now. He was a villain, and he's kind of been rewritten in the last few years to be more of a different ideology compared to Shazam. And I think especially when you're casting Dwayne Johnson, it's more likely going to be a anti-hero. I can't see him playing a villain.
No, I think he's too likable. It's quite hard to see someone like him. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously absolutely shredded. So it's one of those things where you could believe that he could kill you, but he's got such a nice smile. It's like, would he though? But I'm definitely intrigued by it because it's quite a weird thing, isn't it, at the moment, where they're just like villains and anti-heroes are very in at the moment. There's like I watched Cruella recently, and that surprised me how. It was surprisingly good, even though the character doesn't really make sense to the prequels, but that's a whole nother conversation.
It's that's like you say, is in to be the hero who's not really a hero and is kind of cool and edgy. Like you got Deadpool, Harley Quinn. I mean, he even had the Joker film, which to a sense was kind of an anti-hero. Now it got Suicide Squad and. Yeah, they're doing loads of that kind of thing at the moment. So well, we'll see what it is. We'll see what it is. But Shazam, I kind of liked the new costume. It's a bit more comic accurate with the big fat lightning bolt on him. I mean, who cares? It's just they change these costumes every film anyway. So
I know it
doesn't really matter.
It's quite funny. It's almost like every week there's either a new comic book with a new suit in, or there's a new movie with a new suit in. It just seems like every week there's just new suits. I know there's a lot of uproar about I think it's the Spider-Man suit about 6 months ago or something that everyone hated. And then there's another one that came out as well. So it's just I can't keep up with all the different suits. I'm just like. If it looks a bit shit, I don't think of it as, oh no, the movie is bad or the comics are bad because of it. I'm just like, oh, the superhero in universe just chose a really bad suit, and we just have to kind of live with that.
Did you see as well in DC news that Andy Muschietti, the director of the new Flash film, he Instagrammed a photo of Michael Keaton's logo from his original Batman films with a bit of blood on it to essentially tease that Flashpoint was coming, and Michael Keaton will be in the film.
Oh wow! I saw the image and things, and I saw that I think that some of the guys in the comics chat were talking about it, and I was like, oh, that's definitely very interesting. I really like Michael Keaton's Batman. I've rewatched them fairly recently, and so I'm definitely intrigued by it because I know the general sort of plot points of Flashpoint. It's one of those comics and the story where I know the general premise and I know some of the sort of some of the weird realities that came off of it from I think before he went back and redid it all. But I'm very intrigued to see how they do it because it's just one of those things where there's so many awesome DC comics out there that I want to read, but because they haven't pulled their bloody finger out and made DC Infinite for the UK yet, it's just like, why have you not done this? It's in America. Just bring it over here. Then I can be like, cherry picking. When I hear Flashpoint comes out, I can try and read all the stuff beforehand. So if DC are listening, and I know they listen to your show all the time, so DC, get your finger out, release DC Infinite, and I'll read Flashpoint. But what do you think? Are you excited for Keaton to be in it, or do you think they're trying a bit too...
I just think they're trying to date a future past it, try and link it all together and soft reboot it. I would have preferred this story to be told when they had an established universe. It's kind of like a Captain America Civil War, where they've already had these characters for 8 years and God knows how many films by that point, and they had done critically well. But now it's kind of like, it just seems like you're making the film based on the comic success, and that's a way to get fans back on board with you instead of earning that big crossover story, because it is a huge crossover story, and if they were as successful as Marvel, it could be used to that same way, but it's not got the same impact now. I mean, it's cool to see Michael Keaton in it. I think that is very cool, but I'm kind of like, you haven't really earned this.
Well, one thing that bothers me a little bit, and it's the worst with Star Wars, and it is with Spider-Man No Way Home, which I am excited for, but it's quite frustrating now that anything awesome that comes out, we know like half of the, maybe even 3/4 of all the cool surprise cameos. Like when you go back and watch like films, even 10 years ago, if there was like a cameo in, you wouldn't hear about it for maybe a week or two afterwards. So if you're in there early, you'd be like, oh my God, did you see that person in it? And now it's like, oh, by the way, 6 months before the film comes out, we've confirmed that, Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka in Mandalorian. Oh, we've got Michael Keaton in Flashpoint. It's just like, well, and we've got the guy who played Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2 in No Way Home. And it's like, I would have wanted to know this when seeing the film, or at least with a trailer or something. But now it's just like, it does seem a lot of the time, like the Michael Keaton thing. Could you have imagined if they didn't mention that and they didn't show a trailer or anything, and then all of the like people like us who would have seen it within the first couple of days, the surprise to see Flashpoint and have Michael Keaton's Batman, it would have been like, oh my God. But now it's just like, oh, he's going to be in it. He's probably not, I would suspect he's not going to be in it as much as everyone wants it to. So they've almost, I'm worried they're overhyping like with the Doc Ock thing in No Way Home. It's like, is he going to be the main villain, or is he going to show up for like 5 minutes? So I am a bit worried about that sort of aspect of things, where I love knowing these things are going to happen, but equally I'm like, but are you kind of spoiling it before it happens? I'm always torn in that regard.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I think that era of not revealing, actors and characters are in films is kind of over. I wish it wasn't, but I think it's kind of dead now, isn't it?
Yeah, I will say one other thing just to quick is what annoyed me is on YouTube, there's a film coming out called In the Heights, made by the guy who made Hamilton and things, the same sort of thing. On YouTube, there was and they've been doing this a lot recently, you can watch the first 8 minutes of the whole film.
Yeah, I see that a lot. And I'm just like,
what? Why would you want to do that? Just basically, so you can watch a film, like if it was months in advance, it's different, but the film's coming out in like a couple of weeks, so it's just like, oh, so you basically watch the first almost 10 minutes of a film, and then 2 weeks later watch the same 10 minutes again, and then the rest of the film. I think the film's going to be quite long, but it's still just like, trailers ruin things enough as it is a lot of the time if you watch all of them in the TV spots and all these sort of other things. It's just like, we're going to a point now where it's almost like half the films, things, with all the people in it and the trailers and all this sort of other stuff, so much of the film gets spoiled before it comes out now. And it's
it's crazy.
Yeah, but that's a little rant of my own, so.
talking of so DC segueing into Marvel, did you see Thor: Love and Thunder, which is coming out 2022? That's wrapped.
Yes.
Filming now. They've completely filmed it. So now I guess it's now post production. I guess there'll be some reshoots and doing all the various visual effects. But yeah, it's coming out. Is this one the ones you're excited for coming out in the MCU?
Yeah, this is probably my I'm more excited for this film than I think any other film apart from maybe Doctor Strange. Because, Multiverse of Madness and stuff I'm intrigued by the multiverse side of things. I did really enjoy the first Doctor Strange, and Sam Raimi, I do obviously the Spider-Man trilogy, even though the third one's got its faults. I really like them, and I love the Evil Dead trilogy. So I'm excited to see where that's go. Any Juicy Brucey Campbell showing in it. But Thor Ragnarok, I'd say, is probably my favourite MCU movie, bar Infinity War and Endgame. But I'm kind of torn because depends what mood you're in. Because like Infinity War and Endgame are like big, massive, this is an emotional ride, there's so much going on. But Thor Ragnarok, it's such a fun, cool movie, and it's one of my favourite of the MCU. So, and obviously with Taika Waititi directing it and things, I'm very excited. But once again, because I know Natalie Portman's going to be Lady Thor, it's like, that would have been a nice surprise. But I have seen that. Have you seen Chris Hemsworth's arms? They're terrifying.
He looks ridiculous. He looks like a action figure. He looks like Action Man.
He does.
Like it's his mental. He looks like pretty much like an animated character or a character literally pulled from the comic books. He looks. Are you not disappointed? Did you want? I kind of want to see more Fat Thor.
I loved Fat Thor. Yeah. I really did. I genuinely, when I saw those pictures, I was like, oh, I hope at the start there's like maybe a montage or something of him like getting
I hope
into
there
shape.
is they show us him as Fat Thor. I do hope it is a segue into Fit Thor. But I liked Fat Thor. I thought he was cool. I thought it was a good idea to do with the character, and it's a place you can leave him in. So then he kind of.
I would have loved. I would have genuinely loved for him to be Fat Thor the whole time, and the kind of part of it, like part of the fun, would have been him like being so out of shape and trying to do all these crazy things. But then again, when he was in Endgame, obviously he's Fat Thor, but it was fun to see him like that and the character of Fat Thor. But when he was fighting, he didn't seem to be encumbered by his gut. He seemed to, as soon as he was on the battlefield, it was like, oh, I'm basically as powerful as I was. I know he had Stormbreaker, and he had Stormbreaker and stuff, which is cool. But I want petition for release the Fat Thor cut. We'll do that.
And also I find it kind of weird that he went off with the Guardians at the end of Endgame, and the next film we see is a Thor solo film. Yeah. Which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But all the Guardians are going to be in this, aren't they?
Yeah, I have heard that. I feel like what potentially they're going to do is, instead of it, I wonder if it's going to be some sort of, because obviously the reason they did it is the whole James Gunn faff. I do wonder if they were planning on Guardians 3 having Thor in it, and now they're kind of almost swapping the stories in a sense.
Yeah, they've had to flip them. Which could be very true. But we'll see. Taika Waititi's obviously very talented, so it'll be good. And he'll be the first solo character to get 4 films.
Yeah, I did think that as well, because what I'm worried about in some senses is certain characters being overdone. Not like I like them being in buddy films, and I think they're probably going to make a 5th Thor film. Probably 5th one is going to be Lady Thor, and then I don't know if she's going to get her own trilogy or what's going to happen there. Obviously, I suppose it kind of depends. But it's like, they're making, I think, Captain America 4, but obviously, minor spoiler alert for Winter Soldier, that's going to be Sam. So it's one of those weird things where it's like my main concern, I think, is Spider-Man for 4 or 5 solo films, because I love Spider-Man. I want to see more of him, but what I'm concerned about is they're gonna be, Spider-Man's the most popular, so let's just do so much of him until people kind of get sick of him. And I don't want that to happen with Thor. It's like I still want Thor to be in another Avengers movie or something like that in the future. So it's just that kind of air of caution where it's like, I don't want you overdoing it, and I don't want the general public getting sick of Thor, because I love Thor. But yeah, it's interesting. It's the 4th. It's almost like a tongue twister to keep saying 4th Thor film.
Yeah, and very fitting that the first solo character to have 4 films is the character.
Oh, nicely done.
4. Yeah. It's interesting what you say about Spider-Man. I can see them doing about 5 films for Spider-Man, because I guess they picked a young actor for someone to grow into the role, kind of like Harry Potter. And I think that's something Kevin Feige was very interested in in casting young people who do just grow into these roles and can do these roles for 20 plus years, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the hope, I think, because it is quite jarring when certain actors and characters change, especially when people aren't keeping us up to date. Like, Megan's quite a good point of reference for me, because when I showed her the other 5 Spider-Man films, she was like, why are there so many? And it's like, well, when you've been watching superhero films since they were coming out, in a sense, the early 2000s, for us, it's like, oh my God, I need more. But when you've got into the game late and you've got all these other films to kind of catch up on, it can be a bit overwhelming. But I'm hoping Venom 2 is good, and then I'm hoping either Spider-Man 4 or Venom 3, they're going to be in the film together, because they need to redo Spider-Man interacting with Venom, because his interaction in 3 was just a shambles. But
I think it's been said that they are looking to fold Venom in some way. That is the Sony plan, and I think they'd be foolish not to, really.
Yeah, and it was funny as well, wasn't it? Because I think on your guys' show, you and Luke were talking about it's unlikely Venom 2 is going to come out because no one's heard anything. And I had the exact same thought. And then I think like a few days after your episode dropped, they released the trailer for Venom 2. And I thought that was quite funny, of you guys going, no one's heard anything. Do we even think it's going to get delayed? And then it's like, boom, trailer. Although I have my own reserves of that film.
I'm not overly keen on that film. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. Yeah, anyway, a good segue from talking about 4. We'll talk about the actual title. The big topic of this episode is the Loki TV series. Now, at the time of this recording, it was released yesterday. All the reviews have come out, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. I think it's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the one and only rating system you should ever use. It's always correct. So episode 1 was Glorious Purpose, which was a nice callback to his I think he had a speech in the original Avengers. But first of all, what did you think of Loki season 1 episode 1 Glorious Purpose?
I was very pleasantly surprised. I want to be honest here, out of WandaVision, Falcon and Loki, I was the least excited for Loki. I like his character a lot, but I was unsure of the premise, and I was like, how are they going to do it? I'm intrigued by WandaVision because of the mystery side of things and being a bit different. I'm intrigued by Falcon the Winter Soldier because it's basically a Captain America series. And Loki, I was like, I saw the trailers and stuff, and I was like, it did hint at the TVA and all that sort of other stuff, and I was a bit like, I don't know how this is going to work without them spoiling the character. So I kind of went into it thinking, I'm not sure. And after about 5-10 minutes, I was like, okay, I really like this. And it ended, and I think it's probably the strongest first episode of any of the Disney Plus, any of the Marvel Disney Plus series thus far. Not that hard beating the first WandaVision episode, because that was obviously quite slow, but I was very, very pleasantly surprised. What about you? Were you very excited for it? What were your sort of thoughts?
I was, I think I was kind of like you. I was a bit hesitant on it. It felt more like Loki would be more like a bottle series in that it doesn't really affect the wider MCU, in the same that obviously WandaVision and Wanda will have future stories, same as Falcon and Winter Soldier, they will have future stories. But this, I just felt, because like obviously they're taking the character from the Avengers 2012, and that character went through 7 years of character growth and development and changed from that character we knew in Avengers. He's no longer the villain. He was basically a hero by the end. And then you take that character from when he was a villain and you restart it, and I just kind of think, what's there more to tell with the character? You're not going to fold him in to the larger MCU now. He had his character arc. It wasn't the most amazing character arc ever, but there's nowhere else to really go with him. So I was just kind of like, well, I'll just enjoy it for just the entertainment purpose of, let's just see this story play out. But nothing new or exciting is going to happen with that character. Unlike, say, someone like Falcon, who became Captain America, or Wanda, who discovered new powers and is going in different directions, might become more villainous. This character kind of isn't going anywhere. Saying that, though, I did enjoy the episode, but I still have those qualms about the series and character.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm a little bit hesitant about, because it's that whole thing, as you say, like, the way the episode ended, he saw, basically his other self, his life, and he saw
he saw a montage. He saw a best of
the greatest
show,
hits,
didn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is that thing where by the end you kind of think, is he just gonna kind of turn that quickly? And I liked.
He did.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I did like every part of the show, but there was that one part where, right near the end, where Owen Wilson's character's asking him about, why'd you do all this stuff? And he was like, oh, basically, I'm weak and I want the illusion of power. And I was like, that undermines your own character quite heavily, pretty fast, especially because it's literally, hours, maybe a day after Avengers.
Yeah, been a few days, probably.
So it is that worrying. Kind of like you, I've got that. It's going to be 6 episodes, I think. And it's like, are they just going to have him die at the end?
I think the idea was, because obviously everyone loved Loki in the end. Everyone loved Loki, and they said, right, we've got to get that character to where he was before we killed him. And I think what I do appreciate is I was a bit worried it was going to be a series of him, developing, becoming that man. I'm like, well, I already saw that. But at least they just kind of showed him a quick YouTube video, 5 minutes of his greatest hits, and he went, oh yeah, okay, maybe I was good all along. I mean, it's a pretty big flip from the day before he did pull that guy's eye out in Germany and then was stopped by Captain America and was compared to being a Nazi by Captain America, and then the next day he kind of forgot all about that. But I kind of felt like, I was like, oh, do you know what? You just did it. You quickly got through it. You ripped the Band-Aid off. You said, there you go. He's Loki again. He's Loki from Infinity War. Don't even sweat it.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. And I think that was the kind of thing. Don't tiptoe around it. Just bang. No. He saw a video of his mum saying, I love you. And he was like, sweet.
Yeah.
I'm a good guy now.
But I also didn't pick up the fact, obviously when I watched this episode I did, but I didn't realise, and I've seen Thor 2 a couple times, that it was him who basically is the reason his mum died. I didn't quite click that whole, he sent them to go up the stairs on the left and they went to the mum's room rather than Thor's, because that's what obviously Owen Wilson was saying, basically you're the reason your mum died. It's like, oof, that is quite a brutal thing.
I thought that was a little bit harsh. I never clicked on that. And also the film never makes you feel that way, does it? It's
feels like an afterthought.
He's just trying to say how to escape. I thought that's how I took it. He was like, oh, he's letting him get out. Not leading him to his fucking mother's death. But oh well, there's details.
Yeah. I have interest to you, because you've read a lot more of the comics than I have. Have you read much? Because I briefly spoke to Dave about this, and he said that the TVA appeared in like an 80s Thor set of comics. So did you know anything about the TVA before going into this?
No, I don't know anything really about the TVA. Yeah. Let's talk about TVA. What did you think about them and the setting of the TVA?
I think the aesthetic was quite funny and quite clever, because it's that sort of overly bureaucratic thing that's like, one of the worst things about Earth is that, the stereotype is always the American DMV. And I really liked when Loki goes to that place, take a ticket, and he walks like really slowly through that thing, and where it's got the video showing, and it kind of maybe a bit reminiscent of like the intro to WandaVision with that walking clock thing. And I really like steampunky stuff generally. So when I see stuff that's like the old new, so when it's like their technology is beyond any comprehension of life, but all the tech they use looks like it's from like the 60s, almost like that bunker in Captain America 2 where what's his face is on, the Zola. I thought the aesthetic was great. I thought the characters were kind of interesting. There might be the odd hole here or there. Like I did find it weird that the woman who was chasing him was like, zapped the trolley and disintegrated it. But then when she fights him in the room, she just tries to fight him with her fists. I was like, why don't you just pull out your baton and prod him? But obviously that would kill Loki and that'd be the end of the show. So, but I really like the aesthetic, and I thought it was very clever the way they did it. I like Owen Wilson's character, so I'm invested. I have my own theories and things, but what were your sort of thoughts on the general feel?
I really liked that feeling. It's like the aesthetic kind of stuck in the 70s kind of look. Like you say, they've got technology beyond any means, but it's like that was probably the style at the time when they designed it. And so why would they update it? It would take more work to update it. So just leave the aesthetic in like that drab 70s.
Beige.
Beige. Look, everything's just really beige and just, flat. And I love that. But and it's like the most powerful place on Earth. Seeing Infinity Stones.
That cracked me up.
Made me laugh. And I like that because it's like Marvel. They don't want people to keep talking about Infinity Stones to be like, there's always something bigger. Like, like saying Star Wars, there's always a bigger fish. There's always something bigger out there, and there's something bigger than the Infinity Stones. Don't worry too much about them because the TVA can just scrape them up.
Put them in a drawer.
Yeah, put them on some paper. Exactly. And I was like, that's so funny. That's so funny. And they're like, yeah, we get a load of them. Like, this happens all the time. Yeah, I love that aesthetic. I did think, because, like, as the episode went on, I was like, this does look cool, but we do need to move on from this. I do like this for an episode, but let's get out in the world. Because you could do... What I love, you could do so much with this because they jump around to the 16th century, like the 19th century, modern day. They could do so many interesting things and be in so many interesting settings. That's what I really want to see. And now we know what I did appreciate about this episode. It does set everything up. It doesn't tiptoe around, and it says, we're chasing another Loki. That's what we're doing. We're going to chase a Rogue One, and I want to see a Loki just going through different times, being the god of mischief, just doing crazy stuff. And yeah, I just want to see them chasing them along like that. I think that's a cool idea to be. Hopefully it's going to be like a buddy cop series with Owen Wilson and Loki. So yeah, I mean, I love the aesthetic. I think there's definitely more stuff you can do with it, but for a first episode, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and I think as well, I do like, as you said, with the Infinity Stone stuff, that I really liked that and showing the sort of power difference. And it was really good to sort of establish. Loki was constantly the whole time, he was like, I'm so powerful, once I'm out of these chains, you guys will be sorry, blah, blah, blah. And then when he sees that they've just got a drawer of Infinity Stones, and he's like, oh, shit. He's like, they are, like, legit this powerful. Like, you've got, like, in his mind, the Infinity Stones are, like, the most powerful things in existence. And they value them so little. They don't even tell people, oh, you want to be careful about these Infinity Stones. They're not in a vault somewhere. They're just used as paperweights. So what's more valueless than a paperweight in an office, really? And so I think they established that. And I do like it when you've got characters where, they're your view into the new world. They're your everyman. Like in The Boys, Huey is like, you enter the world from their kind of perspective. And you go in knowing everything about Endgame and all that sort of stuff, and you go, are the TVA going to be that powerful? And Loki asks the questions that you kind of think, like, well, the Avengers went back in time and did that, and they're like, oh no, they were meant to, and it's like, oh, okay, well, what about this? And then they had an answer for everything in quite a good way, and I think the way they explain the multiverse stuff was quite interesting, and I just think they've done it very cleverly, where it's quite time travel stuff. I do love time travel stuff, but when it's done right. There are lots of time travel films or episodes of stuff where they do time travel stuff and it becomes so messy. But I think that I'm hoping that they do this in a really right way, and I think they've thought about it quite a lot because of how tight the MCU is. Aside from I think the Spider-Man timeline that they've given out doesn't match the other things. I think that's the only real...
Yeah, they've had to retcon that. They've had to say, yeah, that was completely wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think aside from that, they're pretty consistent, which is quite surprising, such a big thing. Even Star Wars has got, so many plot holes. They have to keep releasing comics and books to explain them all. But I think I'm hopeful of where this is going to go. And what do you think of Owen Wilson in it, by the way?
Yeah, I really loved Owen Wilson in it. I thought he was really cool. It was good to see him again. I can't remember the last thing I saw Owen Wilson in. So yeah, it's I think he's a great addition. I think he's a cool addition to the MCU, and yeah, he's a cool character. I'm really looking forward to those two being in a series together. They've got good chemistry. Kevin Feige even said they'll be like he's hoping these two characters will be everyone's favorite like buddy team up. So yeah, I like that. It was interesting what you said about obviously Loki. He's our everyman essentially, which I think is a really good way to look at it. And also he says about Avengers, they went back in time, why don't you go arrest them? And they're saying, well, that was supposed to happen. It's like, well, what kind of free will have we got here? And I think it is trying to hint at, immediately when they were showed that little video saying, there's these timekeepers and they know everything and they're all powerful, so just let them get on with it. I was like, are these going to be the bad guys?
That's what I thought.
Are we actually going to learn that, these are the villains behind it all, Or is it going to be like a Wizard of Oz thing, and it's all smoke and mirrors, and it's just a man behind the curtain, just a Stan Lee behind a curtain, or something like that. But yeah, I just thought it was raising some interesting questions, because he's saying, what about this, and this? No, that's supposed to happen, and everything is predetermined. So everything in the Marvel universe up to this point has been predetermined, and there is no free will. It just happens. So kind of get on with it. And I'm wondering, are they then going to break this? Was it the some sort of time loop they have now, that the sacred timeline they call it? Sorry. So is that going to break, or are we going to learn that perhaps the timekeepers behind it are actually pretty bad guys? And I think it's raising questions of maybe something will happen. I can see this series going very much the way of WandaVision, and everyone having a theory after every episode.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things as well with this is that a lot of the time when you get people who aren't into, they do it with Star Wars, people do it with Star Wars, and they do it with the MCU, where people who aren't fully invested are just like, they're just like, oh, they're doing too many. There's 2 films a year. There's all these series. There's all this, blah, blah. But with people who are into it, we're like, oh no, this is amazing. And what I was a bit worried about with a lot of these series that were getting announced, I'm glad that seemingly most of them are limited series, if not all of them at the moment. We've also got Hawkeye and She-Hulk and that sort of thing coming out. But I like the fact that they're not dragging on. They're not ridiculously long. They are self-contained in a way, while they're all very different. The feel of WandaVision, the feel of Loki, and the feel of Falcon and Winter Soldier are all completely different shows. And I really appreciate that element. And with what you're saying about the whole, the smoke and mirrors, my theory, getting into Mephisto territory, not really, but like, I think there's the 3 people who I think he called them like lizard people or something, what Loki called them. Yeah. I feel like one of them is going to be some sort of baddie, and he's going to like manipulate the others. And I've either got the vague theory of, I try not to theorize too much, but my first thought was either the sacred timeline isn't the thing, and there are loads of timelines, they're just lying to everyone in this timeline, and they're trying to control everything, or one of those 3 people is a baddie, and they're going to be manipulating things. Because it is that whole question of who, and Loki brings this up, it's probably the only question that didn't really get answered, which is who's deciding this? Why do you get to choose that? They said Loki's character, he's a villain to try and bring out the best in people, and it showed that he's the reason the Avengers got together. I thought that was very clever and very interesting, but it is kind of like, well, if you're just, it's kind of that argument in the God's plan sort of thing. It's just like, if they are controlling everything for what reason? Like, why let Thanos do this? Why do this? Why have all these things happen and have the Avengers be a thing? If you can control basically everything anyway, almost what's the point in doing it in the first place, if you see what I mean? So it is an intriguing, and the free will determinism is a very intriguing argument and discussion to bring into this.
Definitely. And hopefully that will be explored as later episodes go on. Maybe it'll be a case of Mobius, he realizes that perhaps everything he's doing is a bit pointless, and maybe people in the TVA will start to realize their life's a lie, their whole life's work. You got the I forget the guy's name, who Loki said he was going to gut like a fish. He was really good at it.
Yeah, he's in The Good Place. That's why I recognise him from.
Yeah, he was fun. And by his line, he's like, I don't know what fish is. I've been behind a desk my whole life, and it's like these people have all had predetermined positions. It seems there's no working your way up. It's you're just you. This is what you do. And even Mobius says, Owen Wilson's character, of, I don't know how long I've been here. Time works differently. Just seems he just cracks on with the job. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, also I do worry about drifting into WandaVision territory, but there is rumors of cameos that are possible in this, and perhaps we'll have alternate versions of characters, and maybe it will lean into Multiverse of Madness. But I feel like with these, you got Multiverse of Madness and the timeline stuff now, and it feels like, are these 2 different things, or are these things that smash together? Now I'm getting a bit confused. Is there one timeline, so there's no multiverses, or and then my brain starts to hurt when I think about it, so I'm not really sure what's going on.
It's going to be interesting as well, because I think what they're going to I'm interested to see where Disney Marvel go with the movies going forward. With Captain America 4 having Sam in it, people will probably understand that because it's not too much of a leap in that regard. But like, if Loki lives by the end of this and then shows up again, are Disney going to basically be like, look, if you don't watch the series, you're not going to get what's going on in the Avengers movies, or are they going to try and play it like they did in the earlier days? Because in the first, I'd probably say 2 phases of the MCU, you could watch the Avengers movies and not really have to connect the other stuff. I think
yeah, definitely.
And once Winter Soldier happened and Civil War especially, those two, where S.H.I.E.L.D. got dissolved and things, it got mentioned a little bit in Avengers, but it wasn't essential. But then really watching Infinity War without seeing Civil War first, I know they were both directed by the Russo brothers as well, and so was Winter Soldier, and it is that thing of how much are they going to hold people's hands with this, or are they going to go like tough? If you haven't watched Loki and you haven't watched WandaVision, you're not going to get what's happening. So I'm intrigued.
I think they've got to that point now that the MCU have kind of said you got to keep up now. Like, this is it. But then again, they played, like we said, the little montage of Loki's greatest hits at the start. I believe a second season of this is in development, so maybe they're just going to make Loki. It's just going to be buddy cop show now. Do you know what I mean? Like, just him and Owen Wilson going on adventures and taking down different time variants. Whatever they call them. I can't remember. A variant. Yeah. Taking down different variants. And maybe that's kind of how they'll go with the character. I can't see them doing many series of this because I feel like stuff like superhero shows, you got to keep it moving. It's got to do something new. And I think it is a clever idea how they've got Loki back, but obviously from this series, they've just basically said, look, forget that yesterday he tried to kill all of New York. Now he's the Loki you remember. So let's just crack on and go from there. This episode was very good. I really enjoyed it. I'm predicting, I think this will be the best series thus far. I think Tom Hiddleston's very charismatic, so is Owen Wilson. I really like the aesthetic they're going for and the type of stories they're trying to tell. And it does seem, finally, of these limited series, this one is going to finally be the one that kind of expands the MCU compared to the others. Because I feel like we were told WandaVision would lead into Multiverse of Madness, but it doesn't really. And I feel you could watch the next MCU film not having watched that. And the same goes for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Because I imagine if you watched the next Marvel film that had Captain America in, and it was Sam Wilson, you'd be like, yeah, because he gave him the shield in Endgame. That's why he's Captain America. But this finally feels like perhaps you've got to watch it if you want to watch the future films. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you. And one other thing I'll say that I really liked as well that surprised me is the music on the end credits. I thought it was fantastic, the music. I was like, it was so good I just watched all the end credits because I was like, oh, and I went on Spotify and it's not on there yet because obviously I assume they'll release the music when they finish the series, when they release the full series. But it was just one of those things where I was very pleasantly surprised by how good this was and how many notes it hit that I didn't expect it to. I thought the humour was good, it was on point, but it wasn't like, it's not a funny show, but it's got the right level of sort of kind of quippiness, but it's not, like, we don't want Loki just to become another bland, not bland, but not, the same quippy character that like Star-Lord is and things like that. I don't want him to just merge into that. I want him to have his own identity, and I'm hoping with the weird and wonderful nature of Loki. I mean, even the logo, the title of the show is 4 different fonts essentially. So I'm hoping, as you said, if they're going to make a second series, they'll just, I mean, how cool would it be if, as you say, almost every episode they just go after another character that's already showed up in the MCU, but a version of them who's gone rogue, like a crazy, like I think
that'd be cool.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's the comics. I think Time Warps. I think of the comics where there's one which is like, and then there's like the What If stuff, which I know What If is happening. I think that's getting released after Loki. But it is interesting if they can kind of do, this is the timeline where Iron Man became Doctor Strange. I think there's like a one-off comic about that, and I would be interested to see, not if it was a What If thing, but if they did go bad and you have like an anti-hero Loki trying to fight bad versions of the Avengers if something happened. I could see like Iron Man going evil. Or if Ultron survived, all these things. I think that the idea that you sort of sprung up, I'd be very interested to see if that is where it went. If the first series was establishing the multiverse, and then the second and even third series was just, hey, Loki and Morbius? Mobius.
Yeah.
They were just going off, as you say, and each time is just a new villain of the week that's just a fun spin on a pre-existing character. I think that would be a really clever way to go. So yeah, I'd be 100% up for that.
Definitely. I mean, so yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good. I think they're taking an interesting way and establishing new stuff. I like that it's kind of like, now there's something even more powerful than Time Stones. The last 10 years we've been telling you Time Stones, Infinity Stones. It's like the last 10 years we've been telling you Infinity Stones are the most powerful thing in the world. But no, don't worry, it's now the TVA. So just move on from it. It's time to move on. So yeah, it's very good. And I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, I think I'm most excited. I'm more excited for this episode 2 of Loki than I think I've been excited for any episode of any of these other shows.
I think also after watching WandaVision and killing myself with various different theories, I can now just say stop doing that and just enjoy it. Now I've learnt my lesson.
Oh yeah, it was but I agree with everything you said there completely.
Great. Okay, we'll move on to the final segment of this show, which is what we've been watching, reading, or playing this week. So now cinemas have actually come back into the UK. Have you had a chance to go to a cinema as of yet?
Yeah, I actually, with Cruella, I obviously mentioned very briefly earlier, I saw that, and we didn't watch it on Premier Access because I think I like going to the cinema. I think you're on the same boat as well, and I think Luke was too.
Yes.
I love going to the cinema. There are certain films, like I did want to see that Spiral film, the new Saw film, but with mixed reviews, I was like, I'm not that fussed to go see it, and I like the Saw films. I love the first 4 of them, but they do trail off and stuff, so I was like, maybe not. But then me and Megan saw Cruella. We just had like an afternoon, like, let's go see that. I was really surprised how good it was. Genuinely, was. The aesthetic is amazing. The acting's fantastic. The characters are very interesting, and the music and everything was great. It was just that, without spoiling it or anything, but obviously it's a prequel to 101 Dalmatians, but the character isn't at the point of Glenn Close's version of Cruella de Vil in the live action film. They've mentioned there's going to be a sequel to Cruella, which will probably bridge that gap a little bit, because it was really Cruella. It was really, really good. It was just the only flaw in it was that the character of Cruella doesn't match the 101 Dalmatians version. But aside from that, I was very surprised by that. But what about you? Have you been to the cinema or got any plans to go?
Yes, I went to cinema the previous weekend. I saw A Quiet Place 2.
Oh, how was that? Because I've seen the first one.
Did you say you have seen
I've seen the first one. I haven't seen the second one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the second one. It's funny because it picks up immediately from the first one. Yeah. But obviously they probably wanted to get that released a year ago, and then maybe pump a third one out, because I imagine these films aren't particularly taxing to make. They're probably not too difficult. There's not many locations, and they, just basically film it in the woods and in a house. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Cillian Murphy was a great addition. Yeah, the only thing I'd probably say I didn't like about I may be wrong, but I felt like the first one didn't utilize jump scares much. I hate jump scares. I just think they're lowest common denominator of trying to make you scared. But this one I felt used a lot of jump scares. It really sort of lent heavy into that to try and make you feel scared. And I always think, jump scares don't scare me. You've just tricked me. That's all you've done. So yeah, but overall, yeah, Quiet Place 2 was, it was very good. And I think it was a good film to see in the cinema, to finally return to the cinema. So, definitely very happy. I'll tell you what I did watch was something I did want to talk about on this show. Bo Burnham Inside.
I watched that.
That's
I'm so
on
happy
Netflix.
someone else I know has watched it. Oh my god.
Yes. I've watched it
So
twice.
have I.
I watched it on a Saturday, and then I watched it the next day, and I listened to the album.
So I've been listening to it today. Yeah, the album. I've been listening to it on like repeat because Make Happy, his last special, is probably my favourite stand-up special ever. And I'm not actually...
See, I've never watched any of his specials. I never watched one.
I would recommend checking out Make Happy.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably binge him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's got a couple of other... He's got What, which is good. I think it's pretty good. It's got a couple of good moments in it, but it's not phenomenal. It's just really good. Make Happy is my favourite stand-up special ever. And I'm not normally that into musical... stand up. Like I like a bit of Tim Minchin, I like a bit of Bill Bailey, but generally I find that you get the songs that are either they're funny or they're just not great songs and not funny, and you just kind of sat there for like 3 minutes waiting for them to finish the song that isn't hitting the notes. But I think Bo Burnham, he does it where even if the song isn't funny, the song is still really good. So I really recommend Make Happy. But obviously Inside I thought it was incredible. I thought the music was great, and he's very deep and real. There's like this darkness to it, and there are moments in that without spoiling for other people, but it's like it's showing his year of making it, and there are moments in there and it's like this is difficult to watch in an upsetting way because you can really sympathize with it. And I just thought the honesty of he made it all himself, which is incredible, and him keeping bits in, showing him being unhappy at certain points, gave it a lot more weight, I find.
Yeah. A lot of people have described Inside as being a masterpiece, and I would definitely agree that I actually truly do think it is a masterpiece. I only put it on because I just heard that he just filmed a comedy special in a room in his house, and I thought that sounds interesting enough. I'll give it a go. I saw, the first ever time I saw Bo Burnham was Promising Young Woman. That's my in with him. And then I heard, oh yeah, this guy's like a really famous comedian. I actually love comedy music.
Oh well.
I love Flight of the Conchords or Tim Minchin, Bill Bailey. I love all that stuff. And I thought, well, go on then, I'll give it a go. And I put it on. I went, it's an hour and a half. How can it be an hour and a half? I thought, right, I'll watch half and I'll wake up tomorrow and I'll watch the other half. And I was just glued. I didn't think it would be as funny as it is, as sad as it is, and as you say, just as deep and have so much weight to it. I mean, it starts very upbeat, but you can tell that making this, that obviously took about over a year, and you can tell it's starting to grate on him, and it's grinding him down, and it's taking him into a place of, he seems kind of depressed by the end, and I can tell it's interesting because he's making this and you're seeing him just develop as a person, that he's like, I'm happy, I'm upbeat, I'm just having a laugh about the crazy situation we're in at the moment. I'll have this done in 6 months. A year later, oh wait, hold on, we are still in this horrible situation locked inside our homes, and I'm like really starting to get down. I mean, it's everything, and I plea anyone to watch it. It is great. What was your favourite song from it?
Oh, I really like Sexting. It gets stuck in my head.
That was
but the White Woman Instagram song, that absolutely killed me, because I watched it with Megan, and Megan doesn't post on social media. That she has an Instagram, but she posts food and stuff. But there are 3 things she loves, and that is little pumpkins, succulents, and dogs. And there are 3 of the things he said, and some of the images that pop up as well. And I just,
it's incredible. He really, talking of images, he puts he really lays himself bare in this as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff where he's just sort of in his underwear, and I thought, wow, he's really going for it. He's obviously having a bit of a breakdown as well to be showing himself off as much as he is, because he's not a man of like a particularly good body either, and he's just a
standard dude. And I think the thing is with him as well is that the variety. What baffled me the most is when you see that he made that all by himself in a year completely. He wrote all the music, he produced it all, he did all the visuals, all the music video, and you can see, I think right at the very, it's once again not really a spoiler, but like at the end there's a little montage thing where you can see him like playing around with stuff, and you see snippets throughout, but at the end there's like a song and you see him like playing around with the lights and stuff, and there are certain times where the video is better than most music videos out today, He just did it all in a room in his house by himself, and you're just like, this guy is so talented. And I'll say to you, next thing you need to do is watch Make Happy. It's only an hour long. It's a live show, and the music in that, it's annoying because the music in that isn't on Spotify or anything, and there's a song in there that is so good that I just listen to it on YouTube occasionally. So anyone listening who wants, even if you're not a big fan of musical comedy, if you are, Inside is one of those things that I think is the most accurate portrayal of lockdown without it being just a depressing, it could just be an hour and a half of just horrible, depressing stuff, but it's not. And I think what he does so tactfully is there's social commentary in it, there's fun little silly songs that are just for the laugh, but then there's other songs which are very dark, as we said, and I just think that he's a genius. And to be blunt, I think that it was a masterpiece, and I think what he made was incredible. So anyone who's listening, check that out, and check out Make Happy.
I thought, talking of the videos, the one problematic where he's essentially talking about people being held accountable for actions that they maybe did 10 or so years ago, and he's worried that because he dresses Aladdin when he was 17 that then he's going to get cancelled. And just the video of that, because I was saying to my girlfriend and mum who was watching it, I went, that would have taken him about a month, I reckon, if he worked every day, proper full-on work days. That would take ages to make. And you have to remember, he has to write it, he's got to record it, then he's got to film the video, then he's got to piece it together. And it's the commitment he has had to this is just incredible. And like you say, there's it goes to some very deep places, social commentary, talking about equality and racial divides, but then it goes to very silly places like talking about what white women post on Instagram, and it's it's an array of emotions. So definitely, anyone who's just got it, just watch it. You won't be disappointed. You might think, God, an hour and a half, but he utilizes that hour and a half so well that you're drawn in the whole time. I never wanted to stop watching, in all honesty.
No, exactly. I'm exactly the same. And I used to make, at the tail end of college, I made music videos for bands for a little while. I've always had some vague creative output, but I made music videos for bands. It takes bloody ages to make those sort of music videos. It's the people, I think, underestimate of how much footage you actually have to record. In the you just said the video, it makes me think of Footloose, the holding people accountable. What was that song called again? Problematic, that was it. That video, what he almost, from my experience, I would assume, what he probably did is each time he's, wearing a different thing against the wall or in a different place, he probably recorded himself doing at least a minute, probably almost the whole song. That's what happens when people see music videos of bands and they're in 5 different locations. They don't play for 30 seconds. They play the same song 5-10 times from different angles, or maybe a few times if you've got numerous cameras, but obviously then you've got the problem of cameras seeing themselves, and just the amount of footage you have to record, which takes ages, and then sifting through footage is the reason I don't do music videos anymore, because you have to sift through, for every minute of a music video you have to sift through probably 2-3 hours of footage a lot of the time, because you just have to. Definitely. It's just I'm so happy that someone else is enthusiastic about it, because I've just been messaging everyone I know have you watched Bo Burnham's Inside? No. Well, watch Make Happy and then watch that and you'll be happy for it. So I'm so happy you brought that up. I want to quickly ask, are you going to say one more thing about it? I don't want to change something.
No.
I know we're getting near the end of the time, but I want to quickly ask, have you watched, I haven't watched it yet, MODOK? I have.
I've seen that's out. That's by Patton Oswalt, right? Yeah, I'm tempted to watch it, but obviously I have no idea how I can get it.
It's on Disney Plus.
On Hulu. Is it?
Yeah, it's on the Start.
There you go. Oh, now I know. There you go. Get it. Yeah, I will. I didn't realize it all got released.
No,
because I saw clips keep coming up on my YouTube saying you should watch the show, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it. But now, I've just had a little look at the Wikipedia of it. Yeah, all 10 have been released.
Oh, is it?
I will definitely.
I didn't even realize it would be released. I saw it got a mention. I know the premise, but I was like, I don't know anything about. Well, I know vaguely about MODOK, as in I know probably half a paragraph, if that, maybe 2 sentences about him as a character.
Me too. Yeah.
But I don't know much about him, and I was like, it's a very weird place to go for a character that could easily be the next Thanos in the MCU. There was a lot of rumors going around that he was going to be the next big bad for the next big phase of the MCU, because I know in the comics and stuff he is quite a big bad. So it was like, oh, we're introducing him in a like stop motion comedy family show, and he's never been. And obviously, it's not canon, I don't think, to the MCU or anything. It's just this. It's bizarre that they went this way. I like the fact that Marvel are doing weird stuff, but yeah, I was just curious. When you watch it, let me know and message me, because I'll be watching it at some point. But I have to. With Megan, I always have to kind of, we'll watch 2 episodes of Bake Off, and then we'll watch the stuff that I want to watch. It is a trading thing.
Okay, well, all right. I think that's the show. So I've been your host, Matt, and you can follow me at Just Reviews, or follow the show at What's the Topic, and you can look at my YouTube channel, which is just called Just Reviews. So there you go. Would you like to do some plugs for yourself?
Yes, I will. So if you're listening to this on the feed of Comics in Motion, then you can check out my Star Wars show, Star Wars Comics in Canon. New episodes are out every Saturday. And if you've never read a Star Wars comic before in your life, or if you've read every Star Wars comic before, it's still great to listen, because I go through the narrative, I talk about sort of vague plot points of characters, and I talk about connective tissue, like species and planets and all sorts of other things. When you read a comic, you're like, I recognise that person. Well, I go through Wikipedia and my own memory to find out exactly who they are and what connections they have. So that's cool. And I'm doing the War of the Bounty Hunters massive, huge crossover event thing soon. And there's my other show, Genuine Chit Chat, which is not on the feed of Comics in Motion. It's on its own feed. And that's just a different guest each episode about a huge variety of things, from authors and filmmakers to travelers and psychologists, and all kinds of crazy people are on there. It's a lot of fun. And you can find me on social media at Genuine Chit Chat. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook. I post about Star Wars Comics in Canon on there as well. And you can find on YouTube as well, on the Genuine Chit Chat channel, I upload all of the Star Wars stuff and all of Genuine Chit Chat on there as well. And they're all in nice little playlists as well.
Okay. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks.